What's up, vegan savages, and welcome to another Vegans podcast. If you're watching visually, YouTube/Vegans, you're seeing that I see nothing. Today it's all about sleep. My sleep hacks, sleep 101, how to improve your sleep. Just a quick podcast, not holding back, just giving you the action tips. Wait, let me put that off, or let me put it on my head. And that's already the first action tip, the first point we will start with. Sleeping mask, the first game changer. I'm not a sleep expert. I mean, I am practically, and that is what matters, that you practically sleep well and enough. It's all about quality and quantity. In this term, it's actually about both. You can have the most quality sleep, but if you just sleep 2 hours per night, then it's clearly not enough. And you can sleep 10 hours, but if you're constantly waking up and just hours, you cannot fall asleep. So you're lying in bed for 10 hours, but you're just sleeping 5 hours and you're restless, then the quality is lacking. So in this case, regarding sleep, it's a combination of both quantity and quality. And I've read the book Why We Sleep from Dr. Matthew Walker twice, and I really like it. He studied sleep for a decade and is still studying it, and he's just so passionate about sleep. It's his highest excitement, and you can hear it through his words or voice how passionate he is about it. And straight up, you don't need to read it, but I highly recommend listening to the podcast, all his appearances. You know what I like to do? Here's another action tip before we talk about sleeping masks. If you dig an author or a person, type his or her name into YouTube, like Matthew Walker interview, Matthew Walker podcast, and then save all the longer videos or the interesting ones in your watch later. That's how I consume YouTube. You know, I have YouTube Premium, so I can watch videos while I have the screen off or go out of the app. So I watch most podcasts actually on YouTube because I can turn the screen on or go out of the app. And I save all the videos I want to watch later, and then just look in this playlist and watch those. And often in the podcast, in the interviews, they give you the key takeaways of their work, of their books. You know, they're so flattered that they're, for example, on the Joe Rogan Experience, that they give as much value as possible. And that's the key messages. And often, if I'm interested in the topic, I read their books to dive further. But I also love the podcast, the mix, you know, and then I read or listen the book multiple times, and also the podcasts, because there's so much information in there. And that's also another big action tip. If you find something that really resonates with you, meaning you learn a lot from that piece of content, don't just jump to the next one and just input, 6 hours input per day, but you're not taking action and you're not taking the input that resonates with you into action. So if you find something you really resonate with, listen to it again and again. And in a couple of months or half a year or 2 years, listen to that piece of content again. Because then you get something out of it again from a different point of view, because you have taken action on that topic for multiple months or a long time. And then you learned a lot, so you know even more, and thus you get even more out of it and from a different point of view. So that's what I like to do. Pick up books again that really brought me value later in time, reading them again, just the author podcast, listening to that again. And the two best podcasts or the two best appearances of Matthew Walker, in my opinion, and all I'm saying is my opinion, that's me talking, so of course it's my opinion, is Joe Rogan Experience, Matthew Walker, and Rich Roll podcast, Matthew Walker. Wow, Rich Roll, he knows his shit. He's so good in preparing for podcast interviews and then squeezing so much out of a conversation. So yeah, I'm gonna link both down below if I don't forget. Now, in this episode, I just wanna talk about sleep, my big learnings and action tips. Just quickly, we go through it. I'm not holding back. Let's just go. First one, inspired by actually Dorian Ryder, a sleeping mask. Because vegan savages make their own luck. It's like a button you can press of total darkness. Often it's not that dark, not completely dark, or even quite bright. And it's a fact, many studies on that. If it's just super dark, we sleep deeper. And with a sleeping mask, it's like a switch. You put it on and it's complete darkness. For example, Fritz, he left today back home, but when he was here, he often went a bit later to bed. So when I was falling asleep, because our doors, they're transparent, so there was still light in my room, and it doesn't bother me now because I have a sleeping mask and it's just a button. I basically switch, I put it on and it's total darkness. Or the early hours in the morning, in summer in Germany, it gets bright outside at 5 a.m., around 5 a.m., or even earlier. And the curtains I have, they don't make my room totally dark. So I love the sleeping mask because the early morning hours, or the late early morning hours, like 4, 5, 6, 7 a.m. is when we have the most REM sleep. Sleep is mostly that the first hours we fall asleep, we have non-REM sleep, and then the latest hours of our sleep, we have REM sleep. REM means rapid eye movement, and that is, all sleeping phases are important. There's not like this is more important than this or this is better than this. They're all important, but missing REM sleep, something you don't want to have. So if it gets bright and you constantly wake up, you're not in deep REM sleep. And rapid eye movement is when you process a lot, when you mix and match informations from the day before, from things you're doing, you're passionate about, and you're actually getting better while you sleep. Sleep is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, performance enhancement drugs that is legal and most oftenly neglected. Because when you sleep, you're actually getting better at things. It's not like I play the piano and next morning, after a good night of sleep, I come back and I continue. No, you're actually 25 to 35% better than when you left off. Because during sleep, you mix and match all the things you were struggling with, like, I just cannot hit this tune. And then after a good night of sleep, it's coming effortlessly. You're actually getting better. So that's why sleep is so important. That's just one aspect. Sleep is improving all body functions, all things you're doing, all organs. It's so critically important. So that's why don't neglect it. No, get the most out of it, because then you actually live. People who are chronically underslept, it's not a quality of life. They don't know how good you can feel. My highest excitement is weightlifting. If you want to build muscle, it's so important that I sleep. I can kill myself in the gym, but if I'm not recovering, I cannot perform. Performing becomes hard because I'm tired. I don't want to move. So yeah, sleep. Okay, sleeping mask. Get one. Even if it's dark where you sleep, for the couple of nights per year, even if it's just a couple per night. For many people, it's multiple weeks or a month, where they're on the go, sleep at a different location, sleep in a train, in an airplane. Have your sleeping mask with you. You can just make it completely dark. And a good sleeping mask like the one I have, it's super comfortable. It's actually not on your eyes, so you don't feel it on your eyes because it's cushioned around your eyes. So there is nothing on your eyes, no pressure, and they're super soft and smooth. You don't really feel them. I love it. Love it. Thank you, Dorian Ryder, for that. Earplugs. I don't like sleeping with earplugs, but if it's noisy, get good earplugs. And the ones you can form, not the ones you just plug in your ear, the ones you can form. If you have like smaller ears, you can make them really thin, that they fit well and feel comfortable. I still don't like any earplugs, but definitely get the ones you can form. Because currently, in my circumstance, I have construction around my building, and if it's raining, it's really noisy, so I plug them in because I always have the windows open when I sleep, because fresh air, that's another big one. have fresh air and preferably cold air. And have it quiet. Okay, let's talk about temperature. It should be around 18 degrees Celsius. That is the preferred sleeping temperature. And rather have it colder than warmer, because in order for our bodies to fall asleep, we need to drop our body temperature, and the temperature of our brain needs to drop about 1 degree Celsius in order for us to fall asleep. So thus rather have it colder than warmer to fall asleep quicker. You know, when you tuck in your son or your friend beautifully, so romantic or so cute rather, and then 2 minutes later you look at him and his feet are out of the blanket, it's a natural mechanism of us to cool down, because we cool down through our arms, our hands, our feet, and our face. That's why on our palms, on our soles, on our feet, and on the upper face, we don't have hair, so we're cooling off on those areas. So yeah, if it's quite warm, put out your hands and your feet out of the blanket to cool down, that you fall asleep quicker, because we need it cool, like 18 degrees Celsius to fall asleep, stay asleep, and to wake up, it should get warmer. So that's why also hot showers are great in the evening, or a hot bath, because once you get out of the shower or the bath, you become cold, your skin is exposed to the cold air and you're becoming cold, and thus you can fall asleep quicker. It's not the heat that does the trick, but the coldness that is unavoidably that you get once you get out of the shower or the bathtub. Then, timing. I look on my phone because I wrote some things down that I don't forget. Timing, that is the biggest one. Matthew Walker said, if you just take one thing out of his book, the biggest takeaway is that you go to the bed at around the same time and wake up at around the same time while getting sufficient amount of sleep, which is 7 to 9 hours, and I'd even say 7 to 10 hours, because I wore the Aura ring for a long time, and you can basically always cut 1 hour lying in bed of what you actually sleep. If you're lying in bed for 10 hours, you're not sleeping for 10 hours, you're sleeping probably, most likely, in my case, I slept then for about 9 hours. So I always could cut 1 hour of lying in bed. And there was not the hour of, I'm on my phone or anything. No, I'm sleeping, but it takes a bit until you fall asleep, and you wake up more often than you think, so you can kind of cut an hour. So stay in bed 1 hour longer than you want to get in of sleep, if that makes sense. So yeah, but because I physically and actively exhaust myself daily in a good way, following my highest excitement, I want to get the most benefits out of sleep, so I sleep as long as I can, especially in my recovery process, that my body can heal from all the surgeries. I slept as long as I can, and that was usually 8 to 10 hours, sometimes even longer, as much as I can. And 8 is an underestimation. It's rather 9 to 10 hours plus I sleep daily, meaning often I'm 10 hours in bed, so I sleep 9 hours on average, I would say. Actually sleeping, and 10 hours in bed. And many people, in our hustle society, you gotta grind, you gotta work hard. People are afraid of saying how much they actually sleep and feel bad that they sleep a lot. It's so freaking important to sleep a lot. So important. I cannot emphasize enough. I mean, in German we call it Milchmädchenrechnung, like calculation that doesn't make sense. If you think about it, but it doesn't make sense. Oh, if I sleep less, then I have more time to hustle, to be alive, to do, not to be alive, but to be awake and to this and to that. But you're doing those things in a worse state, less quality life, you cannot enjoy it that much, you're not that productive, you're not feeling that good. You're not that progressive in anything because you underslept. So you awake more, but your life quality is decreased, and that is all what matters. How you live here and now, because that is all that exists. Here and now, and how we feel, that is all that exists and all we have. And you feel much better if you're if you are not underslept, if you slept enough and well. So be proud that you sleep a lot. Yeah, I take care of my body. I go to bed early and I don't have a fucked up circadian rhythm because, again, the key message of his book is go to bed at around the same time, wake up at around the same time, get 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. Meaning have a good circadian rhythm that your body can adapt to that. And then it's so much easier to fall asleep and to sleep with quality deeply. Because if you're constantly switching it up, I go to bed early and then I go to bed super late and then in between, and it's always a different time, and then early alarm clock and then a nap, then often people struggle falling asleep because their body is like, what? How can I adapt to a circadian rhythm? And it's so important that our body adapts, because once you have that, it's almost scary. I play this game. Before I look at my phone, I don't use an alarm clock unless I have to, and it's really rarely that I have to, because what a dumb idea to wake me up with a loud machine that kicks me out of this important phase of REM sleep if I don't need to. But since I'm going to bed at around the same time and waking up at around the same time, it's almost scary. When I wake up, naturally, I look at my phone, but before I look at my phone to check the time, I play a game, what time it is. And I'm just off a couple of minutes, mostly. Sometimes 20 minutes, but it's still close. But it's mostly just a couple of minutes because my circadian rhythm is on point, and that's so great because the biggest benefit is you can fall asleep so quickly. Because when it's 10 p.m., I'm done. My body is like, I'm no good for anything. I just want to go to bed and I'm gone. That's so nice. I mean, when there's a great circumstance that excites me, a great opportunity, I hunt it. I go to this party and experience it, but that is rarely. I rarely party unless it's a really exciting opportunity, like once in a lifetime, this or that, or a cool date, and I want to experience that and fall in love, and of course I'm going to stay awake until 5 a.m. or whatever, but that is like once every 3 months or 2 months or so. 3 months rather, or it's not that often. And once those opportunities arrive, I gladly invite them. But mostly I go to bed around 10 p.m. In Austria I did it even earlier. It was kind of 9 p.m. But here in Berlin it's rather, in the summer, rather 10 p.m. And really going to sleep, between 9 to 10 p.m. I already often make myself ready for bed at like 9 something, and I'm sleeping at 10 p.m. and often like 20 minutes earlier. So between 9 to 10 p.m. is when I go to bed, when I actually sleep, not just go to bed and watch Netflix for 5 hours. I do that earlier, like at 8:30 or so. And I wake up around 7. So that's 9 to 10 hours. Perfect. And if you struggle falling asleep, set an alarm, not for waking up unless you have to, but set an alarm for when to go to bed. That you go to bed to the same time, and set it early enough that you hit at least 7 to better 9 hours per night. And you do that regularly, and I almost guarantee you, I guarantee you nothing, but it's likely that you will fall asleep way quicker. Way quicker. Here's another big takeaway or action tip. If you struggle falling asleep, because often it's because our brain cannot shut up, so many impressions and so many things, and people worry about shit and this and tomorrow, blah. I can shut that off easily. I write things down. Tomorrow I do this, and the day in my calendar, and I look at it, okay, tomorrow, and then I just off my head, mindfulness, headspace, just imagination, drifting into a scenario, just in my head, playing other worlds, and then drifting into sleep and dreaming and lucid dreaming and all of that. But yeah, if you struggle with falling asleep because you cannot shut your brain off, practice mindfulness, and also listen to a fiction audiobook. Get Audible. Get Harry Potter, one of my favorite fiction audiobook. Another recommendation would be Ready Player One. Currently listening to Ready Player 2, but not digging it so much. But for falling asleep, it's good. It's good enough. I enjoy it. Lord of the Rings, another great audiobook. Listen to audiobook. Set a sleep timer for at least 10 minutes. But if you're falling asleep, rather 15 to 20 minutes. That you're not like, it's turning off soon and I have to turn it on. And then that you can really, it's going to play it and it's going to turn off and you're just getting lost in the story and you're falling asleep. And the audiobook just turns off. And the next evening, play it again. Go back like 5 minutes because you didn't hear it, because you were falling asleep, to, I was here. 20-minute audio sleep timer at Audible, and that's another good one, another great one. I used it last evening, not because I couldn't fall asleep, but I enjoy it. I enjoy listening to fiction audiobooks in the evening, so I continued Ready Player 2. All right, alcohol, another big one. Just don't drink it. Do what you want. Freedom is your birthright always. Do what excites you. But if alcohol doesn't excite you that much, if it's more your friends, peer pressure, don't drink it. Please. If it's not your highest excitement, don't be pressured. I was, and I did in the past, and I hated it, and then that's not me. I become myself now. I am myself, and that's not me. So together with that, I dropped all my friends I had back then, and they weren't even my friends because I wasn't me. I just wanted to belong. And then I was myself, and then I found true friends. And most of my true friends don't drink. Some do, and no fronts or anything. Do what you want. Do what makes you happy. Follow your highest excitement. But if it's not your highest excitement, don't drink. Drink is really, or alcohol is really poison, not just for your system, but also for your sleep. Caffeine, don't play it down. Caffeine is a drug. It's a psychoactive stimulant. The only one we give to kids regularly. And caffeine is a drug that can greatly benefit you from cognitive and performance enhancement. And that's what I use it for, because building muscle is my highest excitement. And I drink it before the gym. But I know that it has such a long, not just half-life, but quarter life, that 12 hours later, there's still a quarter of that caffeine in your system. So if you drink a coffee at noon, a quarter of that is still in your system at midnight. That's why I drink it as early as possible. And that's why, or not that's why, but I also love to go to the gym in the morning. So it's a symbiotic match. It fits perfectly that I drink my coffee at 8:30 and then be in the gym at 9. So 8:30, then the caffeine can wear off, and I only drink it before my gym. And I'm also thinking about, in Austria I did a 2-month of caffeine break, and it was great. And then I was like, yeah, but I just use it for my training because I care so much about it. And caffeinated, you're just more, you can just perform even more. But let's talk about caffeine another time. The next mesocycle, I want to do completely caffeine free, and maybe also ditch caffeine for life. Because if you want true energy, it's in the sleep and it's in the carbs. Carbs is true energy. And caffeine can give you an extra boost, but is it worth it? Because then we adapt to it, and then in order to have the same effect, we need more. And it's a drug, face it, and I'm aware of that. So, but I use it for, the questions always started, nothing has a built-in meaning. Nothing is good or bad. You give everything a meaning, and it's all about having healthy relationships. What serves you? Use it as a tool that serves you. And that's how I do it. Because I just drink it before of my training, I'm really caffeine sensitive, and it kicks in and improves my training. And that's, then it's great, because that's what I want. Anyways, I'm just, I'm an experienced hunter. Flow state, next mesocycle. I'm going to finish this one with caffeine, and next mesocycle, caffeine free. And then I evaluate if the training or the progression was significantly less, like 10-20%, and if not, if it's the same, then let's see, flow state. I keep you up to date. How about that? Technology masks your sleepiness. Exactly. Technology masks your sleepiness, because if you look at screens, you just artificially keeping yourself awake, even though you would get super tired if you're late in the evening, especially if you text with other people, you're on Tinder, you're on Insta DMs and social content, getting so much input and hormones and this and that. It's you're keeping yourself awake. And know your time when you want to go to bed, that you get enough sleep at around the same time, and go off social and all that, like the best an hour earlier, and downshift. Like watch a movie or read a book. Wait a sec. And I'm back. Took a package from the neighbor because I'm a good neighbor. The postman was probably like, oh no, he's wearing a sleeping mask. I probably interrupted his sleep, but he probably didn't even notice. I don't know. Don't make assumptions. Another great takeaway. Okay, next one. Not eating, studying in bed, they say, but it doesn't account for me. Yeah, that's what they say. Don't study, don't eat in your bed. Just sleep in your bed. And I did the experiment, but for me, it doesn't make a difference. I can sleep so well in my bed, even though I eat in my bed, I study in my bed, I chill in my bed. So Matthew Walker says just sleeping and getting intimate, just having sex and sleeping in the bed. But yeah, do this self-experiment. If you have struggled falling asleep, also try not to study and eat and do other things in your bed besides sleeping and having sex. But for me, it doesn't make a difference. And also they say no screen before bed, as I just say. But for me, it also doesn't make a difference. I lower the lights of my phone and I go on my iPhone in night shift and true tone. And I dim also the lights, that I only have the star projector and the Christmas lights basically on in the evening, so I can produce more melatonin. So another one, keep it dark. Use dim and little light in the evening, that you produce more melatonin, the hormone that will make you fall asleep and sleepy. And if you're on bright screens, they have blue light, you stop your melatonin production and you don't get sleepy. So yeah, use the settings on your phone like night shift and make the displays really dim. But if you struggle falling asleep, then try no technology an hour before you go to bed. No screens. All right, next one I found really interesting. Before I read Why We Sleep, I didn't know that actually it's a genetic disposal if we are night owls, early birds, or hybrids. Meaning night owls, they just are 1/3 about of the population. They just struggle falling asleep early. They just thrive the really late hours, like midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. That's when they're the most productive and really get creative and all of that. And they just cannot shut off earlier to go to sleep. Then we have the early birds. That's me, clearly. I mean, you probably know your chronotype. Early birds, that's also about 1/3 of the population. They fall asleep quickly. They can go to bed 10 p.m., no problem. And they're also not that productive in the evening, that if you say, hey, at 11 p.m. we have a podcast, I'm like, dude, let's do it at 8 a.m., please. And they're super in the morning, they get out refreshed and they're excited to start the day early and want to hustle and do things and be productive. Whereas night owls, in the morning, they rather need their time and sleep in late because they went to bed so late, and then need some while and are not that productive in the morning. And the remaining 1/3, they are called, according to Matthew Walker, hybrids, meaning they can adapt. There are actually 6 different genes we can determines that. But I think most people know already their chronotype if they're night owls, early birds, or hybrids. And then be that. Be that. There is not a right thing. I mean, it's great to go to bed early and wake up early. Like the circadian rhythm according to the sunrise and fall. But if you're a night owl, be that, own that. Unfortunately, in our society is biased towards early birds. School start, work start, and you're lazy, you're sleeping in. No, if you're a night owl, then be productive at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. and get your sleep in. Get your sleep in. So importantly, then sleep until 11, 12 p.m. or a.m. or p.m. But yeah, if you're in school, you just cannot fall asleep, but then you need to wake up, your alarm clock is ringing and you're so done, you're just so tired, and that's really unhealthy. So yeah, fortunately our society is waking up to that, and often you can do work shifts when you want, like you want to start at 8 a.m. or 10 a.m., or that school is starting later, like not at 8 a.m. but 9 a.m., so kids get more sleep, especially if you're a kid and growing up, that you get your sleep in. It's so important for all your development. And there's so many studies on that. Matthew Walker cited, like the first hours of having school, like at 8 a.m. classes, students are way worse compared to at afternoon, like 1 p.m., because then they're way more awake, and the early hours, they're just basically brain dead and sleeping, a lot of them. The night owls, at least. And there is some wiggle room that you can track a night owl to an early bird, but not much, he said. He said there's a wiggle room of just, and I was surprised, of 30 minutes. So, those hybrids, they can adapt to anything, but the night owls, they're just, there's not too much wiggle room that they can become the earliest birds and go to bed at 7 p.m. and rise at 4 a.m. So yeah, find out your chronotype and be that. And I have a hypothesis, but this is probably fake news and not true, why we have that. And I read it somewhere, but I don't think it's from Matthew Walker, why that is. Or maybe it's from him, I don't know, but this is probably, I don't know if it's true, probably not. That, when we were living in tribes for so long, that some of the tribe members were taking guard shifts and watching out for predators in the early nights and the others in the late nights. So that's why we developed 2 chronotypes of early birds and night owls, because one were taking the watch the early hours and the other one the late hours. But I don't know if that is true. Sounds like it makes sense, but many things that sound like they make sense, but they're not true. So yeah. Sleeping mask, we talked about that. Earplugs, we talked about that. Set an alarm clock for when you go to bed, we talked about that. And if you struggle falling asleep, physically and mentally exhaust yourself daily. If you physically exercise daily, meaning following your highest excitements actively, whatever sports you enjoy, and also mentally doing tasks that excite you daily, at the end of the day, you're just done. You're like, I just want to, I'm not good for doing anything anymore, and I just want to sleep, and oof. So yeah. I love sleep. All right, that were my was it quick? Kinda. Action tips, takeaways to improve your sleep. Keep it dark. Keep it cool. Keep it quiet where you sleep. Put technology out of your bedroom and turn off all the lights and the noise and the flickering. Practice mindfulness before you go to bed. And then enough and quality. Headspace, and enjoy it. Then sleeping is a waste of time. No. Here's my spiritual talk now. When we go to bed, we actually wake up, and this physical reality is a dream. We're here, spiritual beings, having this human experience, and this is a dream, and it seems so real because we make it seem real, but it's just in our head. And when we go to bed, we're actually waking up, connecting with our soul family, our spirit guides, our higher mind, and often remembering only just a fraction of that. But then you get more into dreaming, into lucid dreaming, and have extraterrestrials visiting you, communicating with you, you being in astral forms on different planets. That happened to me multiple times. I love it. And you can just call it crazy dreams, or that's actually real shit. And I believe in it. Why? Because it excites me. Believe what you want. Believe what serves you. You know, many things we don't know that are out there. Like what happens after death. There we don't have double-blind control studies. So you have to just find out what you want to believe in. And believe in something that serves you, that excites you. There's so much shit out there. So much more. If you got into lucid dreaming, if you have done psychedelics before, you know that there's so much more out there. So yeah, wake up. I mean, go to bed deeply, quality, and then you truly wake up. Thank you for listening. Until next time, I'm out.